That was an incredible panel, and we have another incredible panel to come. So this final panel presentation of this year's Summer Institute is Living Your Best Life, Personal Experiences, Resources, and Strategies. We have 6 more panelists who have graciously agreed to share their stories about how they've learned to live their best lives. And as we know, each person's journey is unique, and our panelists are going to share their personal experiences related to post-secondary education, employment, independent living, and living a full life in the community. They have very different and wonderful ideas for all of us. We'll hear about resources that were helpful and strategies that allowed them to set and achieve their goals. So I would like to begin by introducing the moderator for this panel, Reed Hallstrom. Welcome, Reed. He is a product manager at UScience, which is an educational technology company working to align young learners with their best fit careers based on their abilities, knowledge, and interests, which is great for our panel. More importantly, he's the proud father to a very sweet 4-year-old who is newly diagnosed with autism and just beginning to navigate the world of unique challenges and supports that surround neurodivergent kids. So thank you, Reed, and thank you. I will let you introduce our panel. Their names are up here and their full bios are on the Padlet.
Thank you to everyone attending. I appreciate the opportunity to facilitate this conversation. And I know one of the downsides of these video panels is that we don't get to see all of you in the audience like we would in a physical location. But certainly one of the big advantages, aside from being able to bring folks together from farther away, is we get to invite you all into our own spaces, which in my case is the front lawn of the Mind Institute. That really feels appropriate here, since this conversation is really about the spaces that each of these panelists have been able to create for themselves. So just on behalf of panelists, all the people here, I'd like to welcome you in to our little community. Come on, sit down. I'd get you a drink if I could. In any case, I'd like to I'd like to thank our panel members for agreeing to share their stories, and we'll start with just a brief introduction of all the panelists before we move into some more in-depth conversations with each of them. So joining me on the panel today is Otto Lana, Karis Chun, Jackie Armstrong, Wesley Witherspoon, Stephen Hinkle, and Cathy McKitka. So we'll be spending just a few minutes with each of these folks, and then we'll have a few minutes for Q&A at the end of the session. So for people in the audience, you can post questions in the Q&A section during the panel session at any time. We'll answer a selection of those questions at the end. When you're posting, as with the prior panel, please remember to indicate which panelist you're directing your questions to. So with that, we will start our panel discussion with Otto. Otto Lana is a high school senior, and he lives in San Diego. He is an award-winning poet, an accomplished filmmaker, an actor, a lyricist. He has been lending his voice as a self-advocate, championing the rights of those with communication challenges since 2018. He was a youth delegate for the Department of Rehab in 2021, and he was awarded the Harry Servideo Memorial Leadership Award for his work in advocacy and inclusion. He's also the recipient of the first inaugural Human Armstrong Award for Excellence for Overcoming Ableism in Academia. He's also an entrepreneur. He's been designing and selling letterboards and apparel on his website, ottosmottos.com. Instagram is a great way to let you know that you can get the word out too. His handle is @Otto_types. He's doing all of this while taking honors classes at Fusion Academy. He loves the outdoors too. The coastline is his zen, whether it's hiking trails or swimming in the ocean, the beach is his happy place. Oh, and he has autism and apraxia, by the way. He says these are diagnoses that describe him but do not define him. His goal is to change the face of autism and apraxia. He has a great life and a bright future and wishes to lead by example, giving parents and disabled individuals hope to fuel their own moonshots. Welcome.
Thank you for the great introduction. Thank you to UCEDD, the Mind Institute, all my fellow panelists, and to all of you watching today. It's been a long morning, lots of information. This is going to be fun, so listen up. I have short brown hair, stylishly gelled back. I have tan skin with loads of sun-kissed freckles, dreamy blue eyes, and I am wearing one of my signature t-shirts for a shameless product placement plug.
So you type to communicate. How did you learn to spell and type, given that you've told us previously you didn't have any academic educational goals until you were 11?
That's the crazy thing about apraxia and autism, right? There is a myth out there that non-speakers are non-thinkers. And while I was stuck in a special day class, learning to wash my hands and pop popcorn in the microwave, I was actually absorbing the world around me. Language is everywhere. Written words are everywhere. Freeway signs, billboards, closed captioning on every single Pixar film. I had nothing but time. It is really no surprise I taught myself how to read and spell. It is like asking a fish how he learned to swim. I was fully immersed, and just like a fish, sink or swim, I was sinking, so I had to learn to spell. That is when I met a speech therapist, Darlene Hanson, and she taught me how to regulate my unruly body and get all those thoughts out of my head and onto the iPad for everyone to hear.
Tell me a little bit about what you think about the term non-speaking versus nonverbal.
Non-speaking versus nonverbal. I say they are both non-starters. They are both nonsense. They are both negative terms equating to none, nothing. I would like to use the terms AAC user, or typer, or speller, or multimodality communicator. Let's start here to end the non-words.
Tell me a little bit about how you came up with the idea for your website, Otto's Mottos.
The name came from my ability to come up with inspiring quotes, ways to sum up the day, and hope for a better tomorrow. I am a wordsmith. The website started with an active lifestyle, a need for a waterproof letterboard, and a way to share it with the masses. Dr. Julie Korstanov, Circle Makers fame and inclusive schooling, encouraged me to sell my waterproof letterboards on the internet. She told me people love me and my message of hope and would buy my stuff. It was a worldwide pandemic and people were looking for answers on the internet. Since then, I have sold over 1,000 letterboards, and you can find my merch all over the world. Not bad for a guy still in high school.
And it's a great example of self-advocacy. So what supports or services allowed you to become a self-advocate?
It is all about communication and the support for the mode of communication that works for you. I type to communicate because apraxia affects my ability to speak with my mouth. Assistive technology, alternative and augmentative communication devices, and therapists who understand apraxia is not a behavior to be discreet trailed away, but a neuromotor condition have given me this gift of communication.
Is there any other advice you'd give to others to help them become successful self-advocates?
I love the limelight. I love the irony of being a non-speaking public speaker. I love the cognitive dissonance of the average Joe when they watch me type. And I especially love the audience, so silent, you can hear a teardrop. The shock and awe approach I have is powerful. Words are powerful, so I am powerful. Not everyone likes the center stage. But that doesn't mean you cannot be a self-advocate. Advocate for yourself in small ways, every day. That is a great place to start. Initiation is the hardest part. Be brave. Create your own narrative.
So tell me what's next for the Otto Nation?
What's next? World domination, of course. Check out my Instagram at Otto_types for all the latest news on speaking gigs and drop-in merch. I will be presenting at Summer Learning Institute next week, the annual mega event for inclusive schooling. My girl, Judy Human, will be there too. Check out my Instagram for a link to register. Follow me. I want to get 1,000 followers by the end of summer. Click follow. It is easy. Then you can call yourself an inclusionist and a citizen of Otter Nation.
And we saw one last question. We saw that you were in Variety. You want to tell me about being in Variety magazine?
Yes, that is so exciting, isn't it? The 1 in 4 Coalition is a non-profit dedicated to change the face of Hollywood to be more inclusive and representative of our population. Caitlin Yang, showcased in the Joey Travolta's Mythbuster video, the CEO of Alpha Studios, Elaine Hall of the Miracle Project, and Beth Dubber of Beth Dubber Photography, created Hollywood on the spectrum. POTS for short. 1 in 4 people are disabled, but less than 1% of people in front of or behind the camera have disabilities. I think role models are important. So I put my face and my smile out there. It is important to advocate for good roles too, not just victims of bullying or the characters that are being mocked. Look at this face. I am clearly leading role material.
Thank you, Otto. Before we move on to Karis, I do want to note that we had to script the conversation a little bit in order to do some of these longer form answers. But if you have any questions for Otto in the Q&A section,
thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. We should be able to. He'll be there in the Q&A section to answer any questions. So thanks again, Otto. All right, moving on to Karis. Karis Chun is 22 years old. She lives in Redlands. Sorry, go ahead. Thanks, Otto. So Karis lives in Redlands. She's a recent high school graduate. She attended high school for 8 years, and after high school, she applied to UC Davis, which has a 4-year program for students with intellectual disabilities called the Redwood Seeds program. And this program helps to get students a professional job at the end of 4 years. So she's learned how to live more independently and gain skills like doing laundry and learning how to manage money. In her spare time, she likes to watch anime and draw. So hi, Karis.
Hello.
Do you mind telling us a little bit about some of the obstacles that you experienced during your high school career and how you were able to overcome some of those obstacles?
So one of the obstacles was moving. I quite moved to a lot of different schools in my life, and just meeting new students, and also having new teachers, and me having a disability, going to every new school and every disability class is different. So like transitioning into that and work with their new system, that's one obstacle I have trouble with. And another thing is figuring out how much I can improve, and so much is like there was some point where like I could do stuff and push forward, and then another time that like I didn't get the help or support that I needed, so everything went from downhill from there. But so
Yeah.
that's one of the obstacles that I had faced.
Can you talk a little bit about how you dealt with those challenges? I mean, I can imagine, especially if you're going to a lot of different schools and having to start over again and again, you're probably getting into a lot of those same cycles. So yeah, how are you able to break out of that?
So I have a really supporting family and especially parents, and they really helped me a lot of that. And um, thankfully, I have some good people, people that I've met in that time period who really helped me. And my last move in my high school, I have met a really wonderful person who really helped me. And before I meeting that person, I was hitting a breaking point where I didn't have like much help or support that I needed at the moment. I lost a lot of self-esteem. I couldn't move really forward, but I had a really good where I live. I have a really good community I live with, so I was with a lot of good people. I could bounce back to them. So even though school was really hard, after school was a better life. So that's how I cope with everything was going on.
That's great. And are there specific strategies that they gave you, or is it just the emotional support? Like how was having the community helpful?
Nothing is, I'm a Christian, so I know um people say like if you trust in the Lord pretty much, and we did all his stress and what's going on, if you talk to him, he will release everything. So I don't, because I have that belief, I don't feel that much stress because I know that it's not worth us stressing over because he's looking after me. And that's also one of it too.
That's great. Can you share some of the advice that you'd give to other people with disabilities about what they can do after high school?
If you have a vision or like a small idea and you think it's a good idea, I think you should go 100% go for it, even though there will be a lot of doubts. Because anything can happen in the future, and if for some reason that path closes, fine, try to reopen it or go to like a different path, something. But another thing is don't give up and just follow your guts, what is saying.
That's great. What was that transition like for you, leaving school and finding the Redwood Seeds program?
So my high school teacher that a high school I just graduated, she's the one who found the Redwood Seed program for me. And I was that summer I was just graduating, and around then my teacher found a program, and my dad did help me to like work on the paperwork and those type of things to transfer myself into Davis. And that was like the whole like summer and fall. And that at that time, my first plan was going to just a regular local college, and take like bit by bit slowly because I don't know what I was doing at that point, because I didn't, and the college I was going to go to, they didn't have an actual disability program. They just have like a good support people like myself pretty much. So that was going through. So at that point I was going to like a gray area, didn't know what to expect, didn't have a full plan. But me actually, when I actually got accepted at the Seeds program, that's everything actually changes. I actually had a plan. I had like a path actually I could go to and follow, and it leads wherever I choose to go to.
That's great. Can you tell me a little bit more about the Redwood Seeds program itself? What is it? What does it mean? What does it do?
So the residency program is for people who have disability like myself, who is more focused on employment and work in a social and dynamics way, like how we can like well not really survive, but like how to like tackle the world after high school, because sometimes after high school people like us, we just stay at home with nothing, and getting jobs that's really hard. So for this program is more for us to like getting helped in more professional way of getting a job. So for myself, I have different likings I like to do. I like with animals and children, and David is known for the animals, and I never got experience working with the animals, so I'm going around with that route and see if I liked it. And being a veterinarian or working around the vet area, I could see like what something like me I could accomplish there, and that was something I would never have if I haven't heard or about the residencies program.
That's great. So given that, what does a day in the life look like for you? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis in the program or in life in general?
So over there, so that the residencies program has a couple classes specifically just for us, and then slowly but slowly they will introduce us with some like new class, the actual UCEDD classes that we take with the other students and the professors there, and so pretty much it's like a regular schedule, like maybe every class is about an hour, and we have a half an hour each breaks between. And nowadays Fridays is our work days, so we'll have our internship and our jobs. So that's the day basis that I have up in Davis. And for me living at home, my whole family is busy. My parents, one of them is a church history professor, my father, and my mother is a medical coder, and my sister still go to her high school still. So I can, and for me specifically, I don't have any friends back home, and it's really hard to get like a hangout with them because it's so much process. So I'm usually back home in my room, just drawing, watching TV, FaceTiming my friends. That's usually my thing. And then if there's a time event, I'll go. But most of the time, I'm just at home, just relaxing, stuff like that.
That's great. Can you tell me a little bit more about your internship? Are you interning with the veterinary studies program, or what does that look like
yes.
for you?
So last year was the first year, and I was the first cohort. So the first 2 quarters we didn't have an internship. We were just getting introduced into actual like Davis and the classes and to feel what Davis feels like. And then the last quarter we were just getting our internship without getting actual paid, but like start like working, like see how that feels. And then now this is the new year with the new students, and now we know what to expect. We're actually getting paid now, so it's a slowly process.
That's great. Where are you interning?
I am living in Southern California in Redlands.
Oh, sorry. Where are you interning? Where is your
interning? Oh, okay, I heard it wrong. I'm interning at I was interning at a library.
Oh, great.
But I'm starting interning at the veterinarian this quarter, but I don't know my schedule, so I have no idea yet.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Thank you, Karis.
Thank you.
And really appreciate you sharing your story. All right. So now we'll spend a couple of minutes with Jackie. Jackie is a registered force of nature on the spectrum living in Roseville, California. She works 2 jobs and is on the board of directors at her local regional center. She has an associate's degree from her local community college and has lived interdependently with support for the last 15 years. And she's going to be sharing some of the insights she's gained from advocating to get the quality of life that she's achieved. So, Jackie, tell me, what does living your best life look like today for you?
So, my best life looks like I am working 2 jobs, Monday through Friday, part-time at both, doing office work and data entry, and doing many, many jobs that are detail-oriented and right to my skill level. I also live independently with support and finding that sweet spot where I'm not overprotected, but I'm not overestimated. It's been a work in progress, but I think I've found that sweet spot. And I have a full, rich social life where I am constantly, hey, you want to see a movie? Hey, you want to go out to dinner? Hey, you want to do this? And I am constantly just on the go.
How do you, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. My life is full, it's rich, and it's funny because in school I never followed the bullet point, do this, now do this, now do this. So in life, I in my 20s, I was in several very serious monogamous relationships, and now in my 30s, I'm just enjoying life and spending with my friends. So I'm kind of flip-flopping the decades. So who knows what my 40s will give me.
All right, I like it. So yeah, tell me a little bit about your journey through the 20s. What's your journey been to get to an employment, and your journey in supported living? Right. Obstacles you faced. How did you overcome them? Yeah, what's that been like?
So I moved out in 2007, and I had 24-hour support just off the straight away. A lot of my support needs have to do with both something called executive functioning. So like I didn't know how to cross the street on my own until I was 30. And then something called adulting. I'd say most of my support is just adulting. I know it's a term that a lot of millennials have coined up, but I think it's pretty valid and accurate to my support needs. And in 2008, as you know, the recession hit, and suddenly I was forced to go into a roommate situation, and I was badly neglected because my roommate had a lot more support. Excuse me. We had we both had support, but because my support was more invisible and tacit and hers was more on the surface, I was neglected really badly. And I actually moved out of that situation and have been living alone since 2009 now. The other piece that happened with the recession is I left my job that I had gotten at the after school teen center that I had gone to beforehand, that I used to work at. It closed and no one was wanting to hire me, and I wasn't keen on going to the Department of Rehab. So I made the choice to go to a sheltered workshop. I would not wish it on my worst enemy. The one thing I did do, which I'm very proud of, is I did, after about 3 years of that, go back to college and did the workshop part-time, college part-time. And then when I graduated, that's when I really just kicked up the advocacy gear, because I kind of felt like, okay, I think I'm ready to move on now. I'm ready to, see, I've gotten the college, but I'd like to see where I can go job-wise and career-wise. And I really, within the past 3 or 4 months, because I just got this second job 4 months ago, I've hit that spot where I feel like I've really shown myself what I can do.
Yeah. Just in thinking back to those times when you were making those transitions,
Yes.
like into the workshop or into college, like what was the process like? How did you find out that those were options? How did you what made you decide to pursue those options?
So Some of it was word of mouth. The supported employment agency that got me to where I am right now was also word of mouth. Like anybody in Sacramento knows who Progressive Employment Concepts is. That's kind of like in the advocacy community. So I had put myself on the wait list when I first started the workshop, and then my name came up. The other thing was that I had to educate myself, as did my family, because when I first started talking about moving out, the option that was given to me was a group home.
Right.
And that I said, well, if I'm going to live somewhere where people are telling me what to do all the time, I might as well just stay with my parents, you know? So I, we went to these conferences that they have every year, these self-advocacy conferences, not conferences that educate you. And they have these little sessions on all these little options that the regional center doesn't tell you about. So there'd be a workshop on, you know, starting your business if you wanted to start a business. There'd be a workshop on supported living. There'd be a workshop on this. And so I think having that artillery of, well, I know that this is out there, I know it exists, and I know you're BSing me, kind of, you have to learn the lingo of the center a bit. So I'd say the conferences was probably, and educating myself. I mean, my mom very much was mentored by little Miss Cathy McKitka over here. So there's a lot of that. And I think just realizing that I don't have to apologize for needing services. This is something that I am entitled to by the Lanterman Act. This is not something I need to be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm taking services from the state. No, I deserve these services. I need them to live a full and rich life.
Yeah, that's great. And accurate, very accurate. Do you feel like those are there any other services that you feel like have been really instrumental, like helping you decide to go to college, for example?
I went on my own. I did go into the DSPS, the Disability Resource Center, that both community college, because I went to 2 different colleges and then switched when I moved because I moved counties. But since I'm a strong auditory learner, the first thing I asked for was a tape recorder in class. The other thing was just trying to find little clubs that maybe piqued my interest, so that way there was like a socialization aspect. So if there was like a feminist club or something, I joined that and stuff. So that was really good.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what would you tell other folks who are just starting out after high school graduation or stepping out of high school at 22? Yeah, what would be helpful advice?
So it's okay if you don't have it figured out yet, because, you know, so much of college, you know, people change their major 3, 4, 5 times. I know Project Search, for example, oftentimes we'll have people like try like 5 or 6 different jobs before they graduate the Project Search process. So if you're just starting out and they're like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? It's okay to not have the answer. That's what your 20s are for, is figuring out what you're good at, what you love, what you want to do with your life. So it's okay to not have the answer. The other thing is that the advocacy never ends. It just never, like, I'm still advocating, you know. My family is going to Hawaii next year, and they wanted me to have, my parents wanted me to have a hotel attached to them. And I just very frankly was like, well, you know, I'm 36. I think I'm ready to have my own hotel room. So the advocacy just never ends, but it just looks different the more you get established.
Yeah,
but the more you find your advocacy voice, the easier it gets. I know that so much of school and behavior programs teach compliance above all things, but you have to take yourself away from being compliant and fighting for what you want.
Yeah, that's great. do you have a advice on how to like take that first step of being non-compliant in that way?
Ask for things that they're not offering, number one,
Mhm.
or start saying, how can we make this happen? You know, I want this goal to be met. It's in my IPP, it's in my ISP, what have you. How are we going to get it met? And then start actually meeting them, or try and meet them as much as you can. I'd say that's the biggest thing. And then also keeping both your feet in the one foot in the inclusion aspect of life, where you're, working in the community and doing things out in the community, and then keeping one foot in the disability community where you have other people who have already gone through it with, 10 years before, 20 years before, through People for Special Olympics. Maybe your local Parks and Rec may have something, that people that have already gone through it and have some, battle stories of how to go through the trenches, makes it so much easier.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jackie. This is really helpful.
Thank you.
All right. Moving along to Wesley. Wesley. Hey, Wesley. Wesley Witherspoon is a consumer advocate at the USC UCEDD, where he has worked for 16 years. He attended special education classes up to the 11th grade and took regular classes throughout his entire educational journey. He received a high school diploma and attended El Camino College and received an associate's degree in general studies. He graduated with a BS degree in psychology at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. He has received awards and good reviews from customers, parents, service providers, and organizations for his good work. Wesley currently serves on the State Council of Developmental Disabilities for the state of California, where he's served since May of 2018, and he's been the council chair since 2021. He's also the chair of the Employment First Committee with the State Council of Developmental Disabilities, and he serves on the Legislative Public Policy Committee on the State Council of Developmental Disabilities. And he went to Washington, D.C. in 2019 to discuss the state of people with disabilities in California. And he advocates for more employment for people with disabilities at AUCD nationwide. Wow, that's a mouthful. Wesley, that's a full plate. Why are you a self-advocate?
I'm a self-advocate. I want to make a difference in everyone's life. So I'm working for you. So when I do my work, I'm working for everybody in the community. You learn about what you want and what you don't want. We live a life in our choosing. Self-advocates are the voice of self-advocates. So you're the ultimate authority when it comes to speaking up for your life. So I just want everybody to know that.
That's great. Do you have a I guess maybe tell me a little bit about your journey to start out with. What brought you to where you are, and how did you get there?
I'm a multi-talented person. I can work, I can maintain friendship, relationships, and exercise. I'm very smart, friendly, and funny. You don't have to stay up late to hear some comedy. I work my way from shelter classes to mainstream education. I work as a disability professional for over 20 years. And before I retire, I want to motivate the self-advocates of the future.
That's great. So tell me a little bit about where you started in your high school career.
So when I was in 6th grade, I was in shelter classes, and when I got to high school level, I was taking all classes, mainstream classes, and I was an honor roll student. I was good, but had a lot of friends. I was very friendly. I got along with everybody, and I was bullied, and I told that the teachers that got the bully out of the school, got kicked out of school. So speak up for yourself. When someone's making it feel uncomfortable, speak up for yourself, because if they don't know, they don't know.
That's great. And yeah, maybe can you talk a little bit about what that first transition period was like when you were leaving high school and going into go, deciding to go to Cal Poly, or what that period was like for you and what helped you make that decision?
I remember when I graduated from high school, I got all this money for high school graduation. Now I got to spend on college on my tuition books. So it was very exciting, and college had more responsibilities. I had to write college level essays, which was not easy. I had to go to writing center, get a lot of help with writing the essays, and doing algebra and doing statistics was a lot of work I had to do. So just because you're out of high school doesn't mean things are over. You're just learning. You learn constantly through your entire life. So you can be learning until you die.
Yeah.
And yes.
What helped you make that decision to go to college? Was that always sort of a foregone conclusion, or what? Yeah.
When I was in high school, I went to a program. It was called Prize Success, and help African American students motivate them to go to college. So I went through that. Went to the pre-classes in high school. And I took classes into college, and I was just motivated. I took time. It took time with time management. Time management is very important when you go to college, because you can spend a lot of time. A lot of people, when they come out of high school, they think, oh, I'm going to socialize. But going to college, it's a lot of work. You got to do a lot of reading. You got to take notes. It's a lot. That's a lot you have to do. It's a lot of avocations. So you just have to motivate yourself. You have to take sacrifices. You have to sacrifice watching TV, and maybe sacrifice your social life. But it'd be worth it at the very end.
That's great. And what brought you into advocacy, all the advocacy work that you're doing now?
So after I graduated from college, I got a job working with people with disabilities. And what motivated me, it was so much abuse of people with disabilities. It just motivated me to become a disability professional, because I wanted to be the voice for people that's been overlooked. And there's people saying bad words about people with disabilities, and there's a lot of ableism out there. So I'm working to make people with disabilities to have a life just like everyone else. I want people with disabilities to have lives just like everyone else. So the same things a person without disability has, I want people with disabilities to have as well.
That's great. What do you feel like is the future of advocacy and self-advocacy, based on what you're seeing now?
Okay, the future of self-advocacy is what you desire. So everybody here is different. So it's your future. So people with disabilities will be in political office. We'll have directors of UCEDDs with disabilities, anything they want. And people with disabilities are capable of doing anything anyone else is.
Yeah, accurate. Maybe tell me a little bit more about some of the work that you're doing now. What are you working on? What have been some of your big achievements in both your advocacy work or other related work?
I work with I do training for people with disabilities. I do trainings on self-advocacy, voting, crime prevention, emergency preparedness, how to prepare for IPPs, healthcare. And pretty soon they want me to work on sexual health, which is going to be a big topic, because it's a major topic. It's a serious topic, and we're working down in the future. And I work with state council. I'm involved with the Deployment First Committee. I'm involved with legislative public policy. I'm involved with making big decisions for the state of California. And I just listen to the self-advocates. The self-advocates are the ultimate voice in what they want. So I want everybody to remember that you are the ultimate authority. So what you say was really very important.
That's great. What do you what sort of advice would you give to others based on those experiences? Yeah.
I would say don't give up. Just because you don't have what you want, don't give up. When I was in high school, I did not have a job. So when I was in high school, it was going to recession and nobody was hiring anybody. So I kept on putting applications in, and I never got called back. I never got anything back. So I thought I would never find a job. It takes time to get what you want. So remember, it takes time to get what you want. It may not happen today or tomorrow, but it might happen a year or 2 years down the line. I did not have a permanent job till I was 28 years old. It took me 8 years to get my bachelor's degree. I did not have a serious relationship till I was 38 years old. If you want something, pursue it. Don't let anyone tell you you can't get it. Find a mentor who can guide you. Do not overpressure yourself. You are human and you're going to make mistakes. You will learn how to self-advocate for yourself for the rest of your life. We are still learning new things. Start small and move on to bigger ideas. In the game of baseball, you can hit a home run, but you start off getting hits. When I was younger, I participated in sports and role-playing games. This is important to gain leadership skills. Throughout your life, you'll run into obstacles. Do the best you can to overcome them.
That's great. Yeah, and I think, I guess, if you can tell me a little bit more about what sort of skills you feel like you gained from some of those early activities outside of what was prescribed to you. Yeah, do you feel like you've gotten you learned some of those other leadership skills or self-advocacy skills as you were early on?
Yes, I learned leadership skills like taking athletics. You learn what to do in the game, and playing role-playing games. You decide what kind of strategy to use, and when you work with people, you got to be, everybody's working together. You're not trying to take over their life. You're just trying to do the best for your organization. So as a leader, I listen to the people that I serve, and I'm willing to take criticism and move on. And I'm just constantly learning new things.
Great. Thank you very much, Wesley. That was really helpful. Okay, now, thanks. Let's talk to Stephen. Stephen Hinkle. Stephen Hinkle is 44 years old, and he is an autistic self-advocate and international speaker on disability policy and disability rights. He's currently a PhD student at Chapman University. He's spoken in 24 states and in Australia on disability policy in the last 24 years. He's currently an adjunct online lecturer for Lesley University and is a board member of the Disability Voices United.
Welcome.
Hi, Stephen.
Welcome, everybody.
So,
go ahead.
Go right ahead.
What were we going to ask?
I was just going to ask you, well, I was going to start off by asking what it feels like to have autism.
What it feels like to have autism? It impacts your brain. Of course, it's defined by the DSM-5, but I'm not going to go into that. But it really impacts your sensory and impacts your social abilities. And it kind of is challenging having a disability, although I'm not mad about it, but it just makes me different than a normal person.
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel like that is that impacted your transition as you went into life after high school?
Well, it impacted me because I had to advocate my way through transition because, for one, I was diploma track, which means that I graduated in high school. I actually took AP Physics and AP Computer Science and Japanese and some of the other things for credit. And I actually then decided where I'm going to go. And then we looked at some possibilities. We knew I was going to college. So we first looked at Mesa and Miramar, and we weren't very impressed with their disability things. So some friends of ours said, go check out San Diego State. And we were really impressed. So I went part-time there for a number of years, and then later went on to get my master's from I went on graduating my bachelor's from San Diego State, and then went on to get my master's from Northern Arizona after going through some hard times with the layoffs and the financial crisis. And then now I've been now in the last few years, I've been a PhD student at Chapman University on a full tuition, full ride scholarship.
That's great. And what was your support network like through that transition process, and what helped you make those transitions from point to point? As you said, like learning to advocate for yourself.
Well, I had to advocate because a lot of times the regional center didn't have very much for me because I was just so outgrown their system. I had to learn some independent living skills. So at first I had some supported living. Now I've outgrown it. I'm in my own apartment living alone on my own, managing my own money, managing my own finances. I drive, I'm very independent. Yep, the whole bit. I'm my own guardian.
That's great. Okay, big question. The transition process itself is undergoing a lot of changes right now for people with disabilities. We've got self-determination, person-centered planning, better career paths, post-secondary education, supported decision-making, declining entry-level job sector, increasing cost of living, and a trend toward community life instead of group home life. Some folks have talked about. So how do we shape or improve that transition process given all these changes?
First of all, this is probably for all of you out there, this is probably the question you need to do, and this is probably the one I'm going to spend most of my time on, because this is just what happened is the old model is going to the wrecking ball. We have a lot of things that are different we're going to have to be different in the way we plan for it, because the number of jobs you can get without diplomas is declining. If you notice, the retail sector is going automated through online shopping and through self-checkout and other things like that. If you notice how many stores are closing in the malls. So what we really have to do is train, as the school districts need to start and the transition programs need to start preparing and using one's abilities, one's gifts, one's talents, one's strengths, one's assets, and see where can they be used in the entire workforce. Historically, we've trained for things like fast food and grocery baggers and restaurant food service, but we need to expand it across the entire workforce. And that may mean things like going to college, that may mean career technical ed, that may mean getting things that count, that learning advanced level knowledge in a field and stuff like that, and open those doors, and don't be jealous if they get more income than someone who works for the system. And we have to open the doors that they can get to middle class, to wealthy class, to start focusing on competitive integrated and give people a chance to make a living wage. And education, you don't want to put limits if they want to go to college or go to even grad school. And then we have to also bring back our industrial arts, bring back our home ec, bring in inclusive ways of giving people a chance to have their independent living skills, but not deprive them of a diploma if their goal is a higher wage career. We really have to also support relationship development, dating, all that kind of stuff as well. If for people to live with and more relationships, and we really have to prepare them, not just take the whole $2,000 cap of the SSI, that has to change at the legislative level, but we have to not only promote that option, but if somebody wants to go for a living wage salary, to not be bound by the SSI or end up having to pay market, or if they get a living wage, can pay themselves for market rate housing as opposed to just the Section 8. So we need to start thinking outside the poverty box when it comes to people with disabilities, and really open their doors to the career paths they desire, the kind of lives they desire, to be with who they want to be with, and think about that path to career, to retirement, to things that we haven't thought of in the process.
That's very well said. I actually fully agree, and I think this is something that I feel really strongly about as well. It's a passion project of my own, and I try not to get evangelical about my own occupation here, but I am interested how you feel like how you found out about those opportunities that you ended up pursuing, and how you feel like that could be presented better at a
some
young
ways
grade.
I had to chart my own path, because in some ways back in late 1990s and early 2000s, those paths were not in the school district. It was the expectation that everybody would stay till 22. And some ways I had to chart and go take things into my own hands and stuff. And then as for the scholarship, I was called to Chapman to present to their Disability Summit conference. And I wasn't even soliciting them at all, but I just made a casual comment, someday I may want to go for my PhD. And I started getting calls from them about applying there. And little did I know that it would be a scholarship in that later on after I went the admission process.
That's great.
And that is a very selective private college, by the way.
Yeah. Yes. My wife got her master's there as
And
well.
this is the real deal. It's with a dissertation, everything.
Yeah. And as you said, it's selective. So I think it's important to know that these are opportunities that not everybody's going to get. So yeah, I appreciate that, Stephen. I think I'll be interested to hear more about the advice that you have, maybe in the Q&A section. So thanks, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, on to Cathy. Catherine McKitka has years of experience in the field of special education. She received her master's degree in Boston at Lesley College in 1975. Her undergraduate was a BA in sociology from Emmanuel College in Boston in 1972. Her professional experiences focused on classroom teaching, advocacy for families, and professional development. As an inclusion specialist, she creates opportunities for children and families to have a journey of possibilities that embrace challenges and dreams. And at the heart of her professional work is creating and sustaining inclusive practices for children and families that blend collected family wisdom with evidence-based practices. Hey, Cathy.
Hi, Reed. That was a lot.
Yeah, they're all a lot. Everybody's very accomplished, and I appreciate that. So we know you're here today to share your daughter Meghan's story. Can you tell us a little bit about Meghan?
Certainly. So Meghan will be 40 years old on Sunday. She truly is a unique human being, but comes with a neurodevelopmental disability. So the diagnosis includes things like cerebral palsy, anxiety, sensory and ADHD issues, and resiliency challenges. She's been living in her own home with supported living services. The support is 24/7 for the last 14 years, where she is able to connect her dreams, her activities, and support to live a meaningful life with a disability. She graduated high school in 2001 and has spent 20 years living her best life in her community, where it's centered around her home and her favorite interests, which include things like music and art, baking, swimming, workouts, time with friends, time with family, and time with her dog, Sophie. She's trying to find her way in life with enthusiasm, with passion and joy. And on this journey with Meghan, we have believed the best ways to create a meaningful life are to engage, to build a sense of self, to foster joyful experiences and energize her spirit. Doing this, you can have the tools you need to find a place in your community.
That's great. So maybe can you talk a little bit about your how you developed that transition plan for her, and more broadly, how does transition planning really begin, and how are those, what are the sort of tools that you use in building that transition plan?
Okay, so it's my belief that we're all born with possibilities, and that transition to adulthood is different for each child. And we've heard that in all the different people that have spoken before us today at the conference. I believe that the intentionality of the transition plan begins in early childhood. Self-determination conversations start then with what choices could lead to the most fulfilled life possible. When Meghan was born and starting her journey, it was the 80s and 90s, we became pioneers in the community of inclusion. The compelling why to inclusion is focused on courage and the sense of belonging, and to get your child out in the world with as many opportunities as possible. Like Stephen said, even when he was in school, and that he had to carve his own way because the programs weren't there and ready for our children that are now entering into their 40s. So for us, the goal for Meghan has always been to live a life with a purpose, to find a rhythm and a pace to her life, and create opportunities for her to make choices, and for these to be normal opportunities, not to take away the disability, but just to live a normal life where your opportunities are the same as your friends. So to make that happen, I believe you need to listen to your dreams, listen to the nightmares along the journey. You need to make good use of human compassion, and you always need to focus on capacity. In our family, attitude is everything, and at the essence of everything, underpinning for good early transition planning right on to transition planning in your 40s is all about collaboration. So there are lots of tools, and most everyone that was on my list has been spoken to already over the course of the conference today. Things such as, we started with Circle of Friends in elementary school, where you're just helping other people who are your peers help you know your strengths and your weaknesses, who you can pair up with to make changes in your world, who are your go-to people to make things happen. Then you've heard about student-focused planning. We saw in our keynote speech about echo mapping and networking. There's things like circles of courage. As you get into high school and beyond, there's talk about shared decision-making, creating an essential life plan, supported decision-making, and we heard a lot about person-centered planning, which we have done twice for Meghan, once when she left high school and once when she started supported living. And I think they were critical to making a successful transition. So my advice is to be focused, to be proactive, to plan, and to always create a team around you.
That's great. And I do want to ask one more question. And I know you've got some story to share, but I wonder, like, what are the challenges now at age 40 for sustaining that plan? Okay,
so I think as Meghan's entering into the new age 40, I think that one of the challenges is that supported living services are a dance of understanding. There's a lot of staff turnover in supported living, as in many agencies that people get support from. So the consistency of your support is often interrupted. So another thing that concerns us is aging with a disability can change what you need for support. So especially aging with cerebral palsy has a lot of medical and motor and language issues that change over time. In addition to that, your team of support that you've had for many years is aging right along with you. So there's always that need to continue to build your support team, add new generation of members so that the vision and the plan that you have can be continued on. I really think it's hard work to maintain attitude and maintain a philosophy of living your life in the community, because you have to constantly remind others what in their role they are supporting the person, they're not fixing the person. And we've heard earlier today that same sentiment goes on in many situations, and that we're constantly reminding others of the importance of routine and relationships so that we can safeguard Meghan's capacity and the respect that people have for her on her journey.
Thank you. So I want to pause and let Meghan give voice to her own story a little bit. So you want to talk a little bit about what you have.
Okay, so our family was really honored to be asked to be part of this panel and to speak to what living your best voice looks like. And so we needed, as I said, Meghan's a very unique person, so we chose to be really creative about how she would have a voice in this panel. So the team got together and we chose to use things like a word cloud that you'll see. We did a slideshow of some of her favorite people and activities, and also to share a video from one of Meghan's music therapy sessions where you'll really see how communication can be a strong part even when people might label you as nonverbal or non-communicative, because we wanted to show the importance of having hope and being resilient and resonating courage. That's what we hope you'll see. And it reminds us when we put it all together that we always believe that Meghan's interests and her strengths, her dreams and her gifts are always more important than her disability.
We are going to send this to Mom, okay? Blue.
Yeah, I
Beautiful.
I thank you for recognizing Megan's voice on the panel. It was with courage and gratitude that Megan wanted to show that we believe living your best life in the community is all about relationships. It's about incredible relationships. And we believe that a successful transition plan for living your best life is a journey, not a destination. So thanks.
Thanks, Cathy. And we now have a couple of minutes to answer some of the questions from the audience. I know we haven't gotten to spend a ton of time with all these panelists. We wanted to make sure we had enough time to talk to each person in here. So we've picked just a small selection of these questions in the brief amount of time we have left here. But certainly if you have more questions, we have more resources available at the end, and Aubin will speak to some of that. But we'll start with Wesley, a question for you. How would you encourage someone to self-advocate and discourage someone from shutting down and being compliant?
Okay.
Sorry, spring that on you, Wesley.
So can you do the question again?
Yeah, I'll give you the question one more time, and I appreciate you trying to do two things at once. How would you encourage someone to self-advocate, and how would you discourage someone from shutting down and being compliant?
So how you encourage a person to self-advocate is know what your preferences are, that know what you want, what you don't want, and how not to be compliant is just be persistent, and also know that people with disabilities, they're not always going to have their parents around. So it's good for to self-advocate for themselves in the future, because you're not always going to be around. So it's your best interest to help your advocates to speak up for themselves, because parents won't be around forever. And that's unfortunate, but that's the reality. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, do you have any specific advice on how to keep people from not how to teach people how to when it's appropriate to speak up for themselves, or when they can speak up for themselves?
So, and there's certain situations where you can speak up for yourself. You can speak up for yourself when you're an adult, when you're 18 years or older. You can speak up for yourself. And there's times that to speak up for yourself is if you're under 18 or you're under conservatorship, things like that. That's when you don't speak up. Not supposed to speak up for yourself. Or someone have you by force, you can't speak up for yourself. But people 18 years and older are not conserved to speak up for themselves.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that is helpful. I'll try to give you a more heads up if I have another question for you. Jackie, a question for you. What are some of the strategies or tools or resources that have helped you with adulting?
So during the pandemic, I have mentioned that there is a huge DSP shortage right now, I think countrywide. And so I right now have only one staff. She is wonderful. She's actually also neurodivergent too. So it's like, oh my God, supplying leading the blind. That's freaking perfect. So we made a plan to where she would leave at 3 on the weekends, just to give her a break, because she's working day in and day out with me, day in and day out. And so I then took it upon myself to start developing, because I have a very specific night routine that I make myself follow. So every night at 8 o'clock, my Google calendar goes off and says, take a shower, take a shower, take a shower, until I do it. And then 9 o'clock hits and it's take your meds, just making sure that I've already done it, because half the time I do it, half the time I do it when the phone tells me. It's worked for now. For other things like being out in the community, it's a little bit harder, a little bit more difficult, because that's where some of my deficits and valleys kind of lie, because of my visual processing disorder. I have something called nonverbal learning disability, and it affects how I process things that move and things that are around me and everything. So I am not safe to walk through a parking lot, for example, even at 36, about to be 37. So, you know, it's figuring out what you can do with the parameters that you can control. Like having a goal set for me that Jackie will be able to figure out traffic by 40 is not a feasible goal for me, but learning how to take my meds at like, you know, 9 o'clock at night on the weekends has been a feasible goal. So it's knowing where your parameters are. And also the other thing that's weird about executive functioning is I will have what I call a great brain day, where like everything's on all cylinders and everything's great and I'm doing everything perfectly and I'm able to understand. And then I wake up the next day, gone. And I drop everything and I don't know where, you know, I don't remember, I forgot my lunch, and, you know, it can change like week to week, day to day, which is very unusual for any support person to walk into, because I think my dad once said it in a fit of frustration. You're so smart not to know this, you know, it's a little bit of a walking contradiction. But I'd say the best strategy I've developed is learning confidence in myself. I'd say my biggest disability has been my low self-esteem, and getting over that has been monumental.
Thank you.
Also, don't limit yourself, you know, to the parents and people out there. Don't limit yourself by what your doctor told you. The doctor told my parents, I think when I was 22, 23, that I would never go to college. I'd never do this. I'd never do that. I proved them wrong and then some.
That's great. And thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, sure.
And given that we're at time, I do want to, since I know we're not going to get to everybody, we had a couple of additional answers to the question I posed to Wesley about encouraging someone to self-advocate or discourage people from shutting down and being compliant. So I'm just going to read the answer that Otto gave as well, just to make sure we get to hear everybody's voices in this Q&A. So Otto says, wow, that is a paradigm shift for sure. ABA rewards compliance, and that was the standard treatment. So we need to blow things up and listen to individuals and reward protesting and non-compliance and grit. Sometimes you have to burn the house down instead of remodel. So sorry, I couldn't give it the Australian accent it deserved, but hope I did that justice. So with that, thank you all. A big thank you to our panelists. And everybody who submitted questions. Again, my apologies if you asked something and we didn't get a chance to answer it. And yeah, I encourage reaching out to all these panelists. They're all really wonderful people, and it's been great to get to know everybody as we go through this process. So thank you all.
The UC Davis Mind Institute was founded in 1998 with a promise to reduce and prevent the disabilities that can be associated with autism and other neurodevelopmental conditions. Every day, our clinicians and researchers make progress on that promise. Our groundbreaking research on autism, Fragile X syndrome, chromosome 22q11.2 deletion syndrome, ADHD, and other conditions associated with disability are helping affected individuals achieve their fullest potential. Please visit our website or our social media platforms to find out more about current studies, upcoming events, and how you can help make a difference.